got a large resource base over there, so 1.3 million tonnes of nickel, which is 2.5 times the amount of nickel we have in Vietnam. So it's a significantly increases our resource base, and in a tier 1 jurisdiction in the Manitoba region.
Hello and welcome to the Assay TV. I'm delighted to be joined today by Scott Williamson, Managing Director of Blackstone Minerals, a company focused on building an integrated battery metals processing business in Vietnam that produces precursor products for Asia's growing lithium-ion battery industry. So welcome, Scott. It's great to have you on the Assay TV with us today. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Alan.
Good. Okay, so maybe we could start with an overview of Blackstone Minerals for any unfamiliar viewers.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, our flagship asset is the Ta Khoa nickel project in northern Vietnam. We're looking to restart the previously operating Ban Phuc nickel mine, and we're also looking to build a downstream refinery which will produce chemical products for lithium-ion battery. So the mine will produce nickel concentrate, and then the concentrate will be then converted into what they call a precursor cathode active material, and that has nickel, cobalt, and manganese in a ratio of 8:1. So it's a refining and mining vertically integrated strategy, and looking to do that with the abundant renewable hydroelectric power that we have in the northern Vietnam region, which is really driving some very strong green credentials and a low CO2 footprint product.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. So I guess we should get straight into the major news that the company's had this week. Congratulations on that. So I understand the company has entered an option agreement to acquire 100% of the Waboden nickel project in Canada. So could you tell us more about this and maybe how it will advance the company going forward?
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, Waboden has a very similar history to the Ta Khoa project. So Waboden was a previously operating mine. So the Bucko mine was operating between 2009 and 2012. And then it went into care and maintenance when the nickel price was much lower than today. And it has a similar history of going, going well through that period. But then when the nickel price fell away, it went into care and maintenance. So we've got this opportunity to look at a restart at this asset in Manitoba. It's in the world-class Thompson nickel belt. So Thompson is what the 5th largest nickel sulphide district in the world. And it's we think a great place to be looking for magmatic nickel sulphide. So we've got a large resource base over there. So 1.3 million tonnes of nickel, which is 2.5 times the amount of nickel we have in Vietnam. So it's a significantly increases our resource base, and in a tier 1 jurisdiction in the Manitoba region. So yeah, also one of the benefits of Manitoba is it has that 100% hydroelectric power. So it's really driving those green credentials, and we'll actually reduce our CO2 footprint even further by bringing in the nickel concentrate from the Waboden project into our refinery. So our refinery was always built for half of the feed to come from the Vietnam mine, and then half was to come from imported feedstocks. We've now put our foot on a significant amount of nickel, and it's green nickel in the Waboden project, and that will then feed into our refinery and fill the requirement of the feed into that refinery for multiple decades.
That's such great news, very exciting. So just staying with the Ta Khoa refinery, could you explain a little bit how Waboden could satisfy your potential future joint venture requirements?
Yeah, it's a really important part of our partnership negotiation. So we're running a joint venture partnership process now. We're looking to bring in downstream partners from either the cathode, battery, or car manufacturing industries. We're particularly focused on South Korea, Japan, and China. We're getting a lot of interest out of those major hubs for the lithium-ion battery industry. One of the questions that we've been getting is where is the rest of the feedstock coming from? We now have the answer to that question. So we can point to multiple decades of feed from this Waboden project into the refinery, and that's really the final piece of the puzzle to unlock the joint venture partnership process, which is well underway, and we're really excited to bring this asset now to those partners and show the potential that we have in Waboden, and to combine that with the Ta Khoa project to feed the refinery and produce more than 40,000 tonnes per annum for multiple decades.
Great. And I know you've already mentioned what it's like operating in Manitoba, but if you could just tell us more about the region and how Blackstone finds operating here, that would be great.
Yeah, well, firstly, it's going to be a bit colder than Vietnam, but we're ready. So we've done some site visits. We've had a good look at the infrastructure. The infrastructure is as good as we've seen. So you've got hydropower running through the project. You've got a highway and a rail line all running right through the project. So that rail line can connect us into Vancouver. Then we can ship to Haiphong and over to the refinery. So some very good infrastructure, but a long history of mining in the Thompson belt. So the Thompson mine has been mined for over 50 years. They've mined down to 1.5 kilometres. So we believe that this mine has the potential to be mining for multiple decades as well. So yeah, some great infrastructure. So you've got a highway all the way from Winnipeg. So it's well located with great infrastructure, and most importantly, that hydropower, which is driving those low CO2 footprint nickel units.
Okay, great. And looking more at the Ta Khoa refinery, I understand the company signed an MOU with ARCA this year. Could you explain more about this for us, please?
Yeah, so that's one of our initiatives to reduce the CO2 footprint even further. So we've done some work with Enviro, and we have a greenhouse gas emission footprint that is the lowest in the industry. We're not stopping there. We want to get towards net zero and potentially even start at net zero. And one of the initiatives is that the carbon mineralization of the tailings, and that's a partnership we have with ARCA. I've noticed there's a lot of big players, including BHP, also looking at this initiative. So it's really about getting that CO2 footprint even lower, even though we are one of the lowest in the industry, and that's been verified by the Nickel Institute. We don't want to stop there. We want to be net zero from day one. And the ARCA MOUs is important step in the direction of achieving net zero.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that, Scott. And then I guess to wrap up today's interview, if you could tell us the next key steps for the company at Waboden, particularly over the 12-month option period moving forward.
Yeah, so at Waboden, we're going to do some work. We're going to really understand what is the development pathway. Is it a large-scale opportunity like we see, or is it a low capex restart? There's many different ways that we could develop the Waboden project, but most importantly, we're going to run the joint venture process and then ask the partners, what would you like to do with Waboden? What scale would you like? How many units do you want from the Waboden project? Because it is IRA compliant, so it's compliant with the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's a really important conversation we have to have with the joint venture partners, is how much of the Waboden project do we need to feed into the refinery? So it gives us plenty of time to understand what's the best way to develop and fund this project, and how does this project tie into that joint venture partnership, which we're very close to completing. So it's a great time to bring this asset into that discussion. And that's probably the key milestone is really locking in the partners and then looking at, okay, well, what's the best way to develop both the Ta Khoa project and the Waboden project and vertically integrate the two. So yeah, some great discussions being had, but they're going to be really even more interesting now because we've got that final piece of the puzzle to fill the refinery.
All right, that sounds really exciting, and we can't wait to hear more about it in the next year. So thanks again for joining me today, Scott.
No worries, thank you.